The massive crystalline ship appeared in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning, and within hours every news channel on the planet was broadcasting the same footage. The vessel was beautiful in a strange way, shaped like a frozen teardrop that caught the sunlight and scattered it into 1,000 colors. It was larger than any structure humans had ever built, nearly 3 miles long and perfectly silent as it hung above the blue planet like a patient god. Ambassador Al stood on the observation deck of the Infinite Dawn and studied the world below with his 4 pale eyes. He had visited hundreds of planets during his long career, made contact with dozens of primitive species, and guided them into the welcoming arms of the Federation. Earth would be no different. His scanners had already mapped every city, every military installation, and every power plant on the surface. The humans possessed nuclear weapons and basic space flight capability, which placed them somewhere in the middle of the development scale. Dangerous enough to require careful handling, but nowhere near advanced enough to pose a real threat. His assistant, a young named approached with a data tablet. The readings show approximately 8 billion inhabitants, she reported. Multiple nation-states with competing governments. They have been broadcasting radio signals for about 100 years, which is how our long-range sensors detected them. Al made a sound of mild interest, and their reaction to our arrival. Confusion mostly, answered. Some panic in certain regions, but their military forces have not taken aggressive action. They appear to be waiting. Wise of them, Al said. Prepare the diplomatic shuttle. We will meet with their leaders and begin the integration process. The shuttle descended through the atmosphere and landed in Geneva, Switzerland, where a delegation of human leaders had gathered to receive the visitors. Al expected fear, perhaps worship, or at the very least the nervous respect that primitive species usually showed when confronted with superior beings. What he found instead surprised him. Commander Jake Harrison of the United States Space Command stepped forward to greet the aliens with a firm handshake and a calm expression that revealed nothing. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. We have prepared a conference room where we can discuss the purpose of your visit. Al studied the human carefully. Jake Harrison was tall for his species, with short brown hair and steady blue eyes that met the ambassador's gaze without flinching. There was no fear in those eyes, only a careful watchfulness that Al found oddly unsettling. Thank you, Commander, Al replied through his translator device. I am Ambassador Al of the Federation. We come in peace, seeking to establish relations with your world and offer you membership in our galactic community. The conference room was filled with representatives from dozens of nations, all watching the alien delegation with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed suspicion. Al took his place at the head of the table and began his standard speech about the benefits of Federation membership, the technological advances that would be shared, and the protection that came with joining a galactic civilization. Dr. Laura Mitchell listened to the ambassador's words with a polite smile that never quite reached her eyes. She was the lead on the human delegation, a woman in her early 40s with dark hair pulled back in a practical style, and a mind that worked faster than most computers. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment, and she knew things about the Federation that Al would never suspect. When the ambassador finished his speech, Laura raised her hand. Ambassador Al, you mentioned that your scanners have mapped our entire planet. May I ask what you found? Al nodded graciously. Of course, Doctor. We have your major population centers, your industrial capabilities, and your natural resources. Your technology is impressive for a species at your stage of development, though still several centuries behind our own. We detected your satellite networks, your submarines, and your underground facilities. We know everything about your world. Laura exchanged a quick glance with Admiral Chris Parker, who sat beside her with his arms crossed over his chest. The Admiral was a large man with hair and the weathered face of someone who had spent decades making difficult decisions. He gave Laura an almost invisible nod. Everything, Laura repeated thoughtfully. And what about our oceans, Ambassador? Did your scanners examine what lies beneath the water? Al's four eyes blinked in a pattern that indicated confusion. The oceans. We detected salt water, various forms of marine life, and some underwater volcanic activity along your tectonic plate boundaries. Nothing of particular interest. Nothing of particular interest, Laura said slowly, letting the words hang in the air. Admiral Parker, I think we should show our guests what our oceans contain. The Admiral stood and addressed the alien delegation with a voice that carried the weight of command. Ambassador, we appreciate your offer of Federation membership, and we look forward to discussing the details. But first, we would like to invite you to take a small trip with us. There is something beneath our oceans that your scanners failed to detect, and we believe it will change the nature of these negotiations significantly. Al felt a flicker of unease in his chest, a sensation he had not experienced in many years. What could possibly be hidden beneath the water that would matter to a civilization capable of traveling between stars? The humans were bluffing, surely, trying to improve their bargaining position through clever misdirection. And yet, the calm confidence in their eyes suggested otherwise. These humans were not behaving like a primitive species confronted with superior technology. They were behaving like equals, like players in a game whose rules Al did not fully understand. Very well, the ambassador said after a long pause. Show us what you have hidden. Laura Mitchell smiled, and this time the expression reached her eyes, carrying with it a hint of something that looked almost like anticipation. Follow us, Ambassador. I promise you will not be disappointed. As the delegation prepared to leave the conference room, Al caught us studying the humans with an expression of growing concern. Ambassador, she whispered, their heart rates and body temperatures indicate no deception. Whatever they are about to show us, they believe it to be genuine. Al did not reply, but as he followed the humans out of the building and toward a waiting aircraft, he felt the first cold touch of doubt creeping into his ancient mind. The Federation had ruled this region of the galaxy for 10,000 years, and in all that time, no primitive species had ever truly surprised them. But something in the way these humans carried themselves, something in the quiet confidence of their movements and the hidden knowledge in their eyes, told Al that Earth might be different. The question was whether that difference would be a blessing or a curse. The aircraft lifted into the sky, carrying its passengers toward the distant ocean, and toward a truth that would shake the foundations of everything the Federation believed about the universe. The aircraft carried them across the Pacific Ocean for several hours before descending toward a small fleet of naval vessels anchored in the middle of nowhere. Al watched the endless blue water stretch out in every direction, finding it difficult to understand why the humans had brought them to such an empty place. His scanners continued to show nothing of interest beneath the waves, just cold salt water and the occasional movement of marine creatures going about their simple lives. The aircraft landed on the deck of the largest ship, and the delegation was escorted to a massive hatch that opened to reveal a vessel unlike anything Al had ever seen. It was a submarine, that much was obvious, but its size and design were completely foreign to his understanding of human technology. The craft was nearly 500 feet long, built from a dark metal that his scanner could not identify, and it hummed with an energy signature that made no sense according to physics. "Welcome aboard the Leviathan," said Captain Cole, extending his hand to the ambassador with a friendly smile. "Watch your step coming down. The artificial gravity takes a moment to adjust to." Artificial gravity, Al repeated as he descended into the submarine. Your civilization should not possess artificial gravity technology for another 300 years, according to our development models. Cole was a man in his late 30s with an easy manner that seemed at odds with the serious nature of his command. He had sandy hair, a quick laugh, and eyes that missed nothing despite his casual demeanor. "Those development models might need some updating, Ambassador. Please, Follow me to the observation deck." The interior of the Leviathan was clean and efficient, filled with technology that Al could not identify despite his centuries of experience with advanced civilizations. His assistant walked beside him, her four eyes darting in every direction as she tried to what she was seeing. Nothing matched the database. Nothing made sense. Lieutenant Brooks greeted them on the observation deck, a young woman with red hair and freckles who managed the submarine's navigation systems. She nodded respectfully to the alien delegation and then turned her attention to her console. "Captain, we are ready to begin descent on your order." "Take us down," Lieutenant commanded. "Nice and slow. Let our guests enjoy the view." The Leviathan detached from its docking station and began to sink beneath the waves. The observation deck featured massive transparent panels that allowed passengers to watch the ocean pass by as they descended. At first, there was only blue water and shafts of sunlight piercing down from the surface. Then the light began to fade as they went deeper, and the blue turned to and then to black. Al felt his unease growing with every passing minute. Technology could withstand incredible pressure, but even their ships rarely ventured into the deepest parts of alien oceans. There was simply no reason to do so. Resources could be extracted from shallower waters, and the crushing depths offered nothing but danger. "We are now passing 10,000 feet," announced calmly. "Water temperature dropping, pressure increasing, all systems operating normally." "How deep does this vessel go?" Cole asked his guest with a knowing smile. Al did not answer. His scanners were starting to malfunction, giving readings that contradicted each other and flickered with static interference. Something was blocking his technology, something powerful enough to render instruments useless. "Your scanners are good," continued as if reading the ambassador's thoughts, "but they are designed to detect technology signatures you understand. What we are about to show you operates on principles your civilization abandoned 12,000 years ago." The ambassador turned to stare at the human captain. "What do you mean, abandoned?" "I mean that your species once understood this science," explained. "Long ago, before the Federation existed, your ancestors explored a different path of technological development. They called it resonance physics, the manipulation of fundamental vibrations that hold matter and energy together. But they found it too dangerous, too unpredictable, and so they sealed away all knowledge of it and chose a safer route." "That is not possible," a protested. "Our historical records go back 15,000 years. There is no mention of any abandoned technology." Dr. Laura Mitchell stepped forward from where she had been watching the exchange. "Your historical records were edited," she said gently. "Certain information was deliberately removed to prevent future generations from making the same mistakes. We know this because we found the original records." "Found them where?" Al demanded. Laura simply pointed toward the observation window. "Look." The Leviathan had descended past 30,000 feet, deeper than any submarine should be able to survive. The pressure outside was enough to crush any vessel built with conventional technology. And yet the ship continued its journey without complaint, its mysterious hull holding firm against the weight of the ocean. And then the lights appeared. At first Al thought his eyes were malfunctioning, adding to the failure of his other instruments. But the lights were real, shimmering far below like stars fallen to the bottom of the sea. They pulsed with a soft golden radiance that seemed to push back the darkness itself, creating a warm glow that spread across the ocean floor. As the Leviathan descended further, the source of the lights became clear. A city stretched out beneath them, vast and beautiful and utterly impossible. Towers of gleaming metal rose from the seabed, connected by bridges and walkways that curved in elegant arcs. Domes of transparent material covered parks and gardens where plants grew in defiance of the darkness. And everywhere, moving along the streets and through the buildings, were people. Humans. Al pressed his face against the observation window, all four eyes wide with shock. "This cannot be real. Your species does not have the technology to build such a place. We did not build it, Cole said quietly. We inherited it. Welcome to Atlantis, Ambassador. Population approximately 2 million. Age just over 11,000 years. And they have been waiting for this moment for a very long time. The Leviathan continued its descent toward the glowing city, and Al felt his understanding of the universe crumbling around him. Everything the Federation believed about Earth was wrong. Everything they believed about human capabilities was wrong. And if those things were wrong, what else had they failed to understand? The submarine approached a massive docking structure built into the side of the tallest tower, and mechanical arms extended to guide them into port. Through the window, Al could see Atlantean citizens gathering to watch the arrival, their faces showing curiosity but no fear. They had known this day would come. They had been preparing for it longer than the Federation had existed. And now, finally, they were ready to reveal themselves to the galaxy. The docking clamps locked into place with a soft click, and the hatch of the Leviathan opened to reveal a delegation of Atlanteans waiting to receive their guests. Standing at the front of the group was an old man with white hair and calm eyes, wearing robes that shimmered with the same golden light as the city itself. "Welcome, travelers from the stars," the old man said. "My name is Gray. I am the Elder of Atlantis, and we have much to discuss." Elder Gray led the delegation through the streets of Atlantis, and with every step Al felt his confidence slipping further away. The city was more advanced than anything he had ever seen, more advanced even than the capital world of the Federation. The buildings were constructed from materials that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. The air was fresh and clean despite being recycled at the bottom of the ocean, and the energy that powered everything came from sources that his instruments could not detect or measure. The Atlantean citizens watched the alien visitors with polite interest but no amazement. They had clearly seen strange things before. Many of them nodded respectfully to Elder Gray as he passed, and he returned each greeting with a warm smile. He was old by surface human standards, perhaps 70 years, but he moved with the ease of someone half his age, and his eyes held a wisdom that made Al feel like a child. They arrived at a massive building in the center of the city, its walls covered with carvings that depicted scenes from a history Al did not recognize. Ships descending from the sky, battles fought with weapons of light, a great city sinking beneath the waves, and at the center of it all, the image of a crystalline ship that looked disturbingly familiar. "The Grand Hall of Tides," announced as they entered the building. "This is where we make decisions that affect our people and where we welcome honored guests. Please sit. We have prepared refreshments and we have much to explain." The hall was carved from living coral that pulsed with soft bioluminescent light, creating an atmosphere that was both calming and slightly unnerving. Chairs had been arranged around a central platform, and the delegation took their seats as Atlantean servants brought trays of food and drink. Al was too distracted to eat. His mind was racing with questions that he did not know how to ask, and with fears that he did not want to acknowledge. The Federation had ruled this region of the galaxy for 10,000 years, confident in their superiority over all other species. But if the humans had possessed technology like this for 11,000 years, then everything the Federation believed about the balance of power was wrong. "You are wondering how this is possible," said, reading the ambassador's expression with ease. "You are wondering how a species you considered primitive could have hidden such advancement from you for so long. The answer is simple, Ambassador. You were not the first visitors from the stars to underestimate humanity." Dr. Amy Foster stepped forward to address the gathering. She was the chief historian of Atlantis, a woman with silver hair and sharp green eyes who had spent her entire life studying the true history of human civilization. She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the hall with images and star maps. 12,000 years ago, Amy began, the Federation was not the dominant power in this region of space. Your ancestors were explorers and conquerors, traveling from system to system in search of resources and new worlds to claim. They found Earth and they found humanity, and they believed we would be easy prey. Al stared at the holographic images of ancient ships descending toward Earth. "This is not in our historical records," he protested. "We have no documentation of any contact with Earth before today." Nodded slowly. "That is because we erased those records, and we erased the fleet that came here to conquer us." The holographic display shifted to show scenes of battle. Human warriors in gleaming armor faced off against soldiers. Weapons that blazed with golden light cut through alien ships like paper. And at the end of it all, a great city sinking beneath the waves, descending into the darkness of the ocean to hide from any future visitors. "Your ancestors came with 500 ships," Amy continued. "They believed that numbers alone would be enough to overwhelm us. They did not understand that we had been preparing for visitors from the stars for generations before they arrived. Our scientists had developed technology based on resonance physics, the same science that your civilization once knew and chose to forget. We studied what your soldiers carried, improved upon it, and turned it against them." A was taking notes rapidly on her data tablet, her 4 eyes wide with shock. "You defeated 500 ships, with technology you developed on your own." Amy smiled without humor. "We did not just develop it on our own. We had help. The universe is older than either of our civilizations, and there are secrets hidden in the fabric of reality itself for those who know where to look. Our ancestors found those secrets, and they used them to protect our world." Stood and walked to the edge of the holographic display. "After the battle, we faced a choice. We could reveal ourselves to the galaxy and claim our place among the stars, or we could hide, letting the universe believe that Earth was still a primitive world while we continued to develop in secret. We chose to hide." "Why?" Al asked. "If you possess such power, why not use it?" "Because power without wisdom is dangerous," replied. "We had defeated your ancestors, but we knew that greater threats existed beyond the boundaries of explored space. We needed time to prepare, time to grow stronger, time to understand the true nature of the universe. And so we sank Atlantis beneath the waves and allowed the surface nations to develop on their own, while we watched and waited." The holographic display showed the passage of centuries, the rise and fall of surface civilizations, and the steady growth of Atlantis in the depths of the ocean. The Atlanteans had never stopped advancing, never stopped learning, never stopped preparing for the day when they would reveal themselves once more. "The humans on the surface," Laura Mitchell added, "were our shield. They were the face we showed to the galaxy, a species that appeared primitive and harmless. But Atlantis was always our sword, ready to be drawn when the time was right." Al felt the weight of these revelations pressing down on him like the ocean above. Everything he believed about humanity, about the Federation, about the balance of power in the galaxy, was built on a lie. The Federation had spent 10,000 years believing they were the dominant civilization in this region of space, when all along a greater power had been watching from the shadows. "Why reveal yourselves now?" the ambassador asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why show us the truth after so many years of hiding?" His expression grew serious, and for the first time Al saw something other than calm wisdom in the old man's eyes. He saw fear. "Because the time for hiding is over," said quietly. "Something is coming, Ambassador. Something we have been watching for 9,000 years, something that makes both of our civilizations look like children playing with fire. The ancient enemy that drove your ancestors to explore the stars in the first place, the darkness that your historical records have tried so hard to forget." He gestured to the holographic display, which shifted to show a map of the galaxy. At the very edge of the map, beyond the boundaries of known space, a vast shadow was moving slowly but steadily toward the core worlds. "We revealed ourselves because we need allies," continued. "Not subjects, not conquered peoples, but true allies who will stand beside us when the darkness arrives. The question is whether the Federation is ready to become what we need you to be." Al stared at the approaching shadow, and for the first time in his long life, he understood what it meant to feel truly small. The revelation of the approaching darkness hung in the air of the grand hall like a physical weight, pressing down on everyone present. Al wanted to dismiss it as a trick, a manipulation designed to frighten the delegation into cooperating. But the fear he had seen in Gray's eyes was too genuine to fake, and the readings from the holographic display matched data fragments that the Federation had classified and buried centuries ago. Still, the ambassador was not willing to simply accept everything the Atlanteans claimed. He had not survived 400 years of diplomatic service by trusting blindly, and he refused to start now. "Before we discuss alliances or ancient enemies," he said carefully, "I require proof. You claim to possess technology beyond anything the Federation has developed. Show me." Nodded as if he had expected this request. "Of course, Ambassador. Admiral Ben Carter will escort you to our proving grounds. There you will see exactly what Atlantis is capable of." Admiral Ben Carter was a tall man with broad shoulders and the confident bearing of someone who had commanded warships in actual combat. His hair was at the temples, and his face bore the scars of old battles, but his eyes were sharp and alert. He led the delegation through a series of underground tunnels that connected the central tower to a vast underwater arena located on the outskirts of the city. The proving grounds were enormous, a dome of reinforced material that stretched for miles in every direction. Inside the dome, Atlantean engineers were working with equipment that Al could not begin to understand. There were machines that floated without visible support, weapons that pulsed with contained energy, and vehicles that seemed to phase in and out of normal space as they moved. "Your Federation believes it possesses the most powerful weapons in the known galaxy," Ben said as they walked among the testing stations. "Your plasma cannons can level cities in minutes. Your gravity bombs can crack continents down to the mantle. Impressive technology, truly. We respect what your civilization has achieved." Al straightened with a touch of pride despite himself. "The military is the most advanced in explored space. No enemy has ever defeated our forces in direct combat." Ben nodded thoughtfully. "That is true as far as it goes. But your enemies have always been working with technology that you understood, weapons that operated on principles you could analyze and counter. What happens when you face something that works on entirely different rules?" They arrived at a testing platform where a young woman with dark curly hair was making final adjustments to a device that looked almost ridiculously simple. It was a sphere of polished bronze, no larger than a human head, mounted on a pedestal of the same strange metal that the city was built from. "This is Engineer," Ben introduced her. "She leads our weapons development division. Please explain to our guests what they are about to see." Wiped her hands on her work clothes and turned to face the alien delegation with a friendly smile. "This is a harmonic resonator," she explained, gesturing to the bronze sphere. "It generates vibrations at frequencies that interact with the fundamental forces holding matter together. Your civilization calls these forces by different names: strong nuclear force, electromagnetic force, gravitational force. We call them harmonics, and we have learned how to play them like an instrument." A step closer to examine the device, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. "How does it function?" Activated a holographic display that showed complex wave patterns overlapping and intersecting. "Everything in the universe vibrates at specific frequencies," she explained. "Atoms, molecules, energy itself. All of it is just different songs playing in the same cosmic symphony. This device identifies the frequency of a target and generates an opposing harmonic that cancels it out. When the frequencies cancel, the bonds holding the target together simply stop working." Al frowned. "What do you mean, stop working?" "Watch and see," Ben said. He nodded too, who began powering up the harmonic resonator. The bronze sphere began to hum, producing a sound that was more felt than heard. The holographic display shifted to show an image of an asteroid floating in deep space, far from any inhabited worlds. Sensors indicated that the asteroid was approximately the size of Earth's moon, a massive chunk of rock and metal that would have taken the military weeks to destroy with conventional weapons. Target locked, announced calmly. Resonance pattern established, initiating harmonic cascade in 3, 2, 1. The sphere pulsed with golden light, and for a moment nothing seemed to happen. Then the image of the asteroid began to shimmer and distort, like a reflection in water disturbed by a stone. The shimmer intensified, spreading across the entire surface of the massive rock. And then the asteroid simply dissolved. There was no explosion, no debris, no shockwave. One moment the asteroid existed, and the next it was gone, reduced to a fine dust that dispersed into the vacuum of space. Al felt his heart stop beating for a terrifying moment as he processed what he had just witnessed. That asteroid was the size of your moon, he breathed. You destroyed it in seconds. Correct, confirmed pleasantly. And this is our smallest model, Ambassador. We have 17 larger versions positioned at strategic locations around the planet. We have never needed to use them against an actual threat because no one has ever discovered our existence. But they have been tested, refined, and improved for 11,000 years. They are ready. A was trembling as she took notes, her stylus barely able to form coherent words. The implications, she whispered. If you can destabilize atomic bonds at will, you could destroy anything. Ships, planets, stars. We could, Gray confirmed. He had arrived quietly during the demonstration and now stood beside the testing platform with his hands folded calmly in front of him. But we have chosen not to. Power without restraint is not strength, Ambassador. It is madness. Our ancestors learned that lesson the hard way, which is why they hid Atlantis beneath the waves instead of conquering the surface world. Al struggled to find his voice. If you have possessed this capability for 11,000 years, why have you never used it? Why hide when you could have ruled? Because ruling was never our purpose, replied. We are guardians, Ambassador. We watch, we wait, and we prepare. The darkness that approaches does not care about empires or conquests. It consumes everything in its path without discrimination. Human, all life is equally threatened by what is coming. And you believe your weapons can stop it? Al asked. His expression grew serious. I believe our weapons can hurt it, which is more than anyone else has managed. But stopping it will require more than weapons. It will require unity, cooperation, and the combined resources of every civilization willing to stand against the void. Ben Carter stepped forward. We have shown you what we can do, Ambassador. We have revealed secrets that have been hidden for longer than your Federation has existed. Now it is time for you to make a choice. Will you return to your leaders with the truth, or will you pretend that you saw nothing and hope that the darkness passes your worlds by? Al looked at the bronze sphere sitting innocently on its pedestal, a device that could destroy moons with a single pulse. He thought about the shadow moving slowly across the galactic map, consuming everything in its path. And he thought about the calm confidence in the eyes of these strange humans who had watched the stars for while the rest of the galaxy remained blind. I will return to my leaders, he said finally, and I will tell them what I have seen. Nodded approvingly. That is all we ask, Ambassador. The decision of what to do with that knowledge is yours to make. But as Al turned to leave the proving grounds, he knew in his heart that there was really only one decision possible. The Federation could not ignore what was coming. They could not pretend that Atlantis did not exist, and they could not face the approaching darkness alone. For the first time in 10,000 years, the masters of the galaxy would have to accept that they were not the most powerful civilization in existence. And that realization, more than anything else he had witnessed, terrified the Ambassador to his very core. The Federation Council chamber erupted into chaos the moment Al finished delivering his report. Delegates from 100 worlds shouted over each other, some demanding immediate military action, while others called for evacuation of the core systems. Supreme Chancellor hammered his staff against the floor in a futile attempt to restore order, his face flushed with a mixture of anger and fear. "This is impossible," roared Admiral N, commander of the Federation's primary battle fleet. A primitive species hiding superior technology beneath their oceans for 11,000 years. It defies all logic. The ambassador has clearly been deceived by an elaborate illusion. Al remained calm despite the accusations being thrown at him. "I have provided full sensor recordings of everything I witnessed," he replied. "My assistant has submitted her independent analysis confirming that Atlantean technology operates on principles unknown to our science. The humans are not deceiving us, Admiral. They are offering us a chance to survive what is coming." The holographic display in the center of the chamber showed the same shadow that Gray had revealed in the Grand Hall of Tides. It had moved noticeably closer since Al's visit to Earth, consuming 3 more star systems at the edge of mapped space. The devastation left behind was total. No survivors, no wreckage, no evidence of what the darkness actually was or how it destroyed everything in its path. Chancellor studied the images with growing horror. "Our long-range sensors detected these anomalies decades ago," he admitted quietly. "We classified the data and told ourselves it was merely a natural phenomenon, a cosmic storm that would eventually pass." "With respect, Chancellor," Al said, "it is not passing. It is approaching. And based on the trajectory data the Atlanteans provided, it will reach Federation space within 50 years. The council fell silent as the implications sank in. 50 years was nothing in the of a civilization. Most of the delegates present would still be alive when the darkness arrived. Their children and would face whatever horror awaited within that moving shadow. "What do the humans want?" asked finally. "What price do they demand for their assistance?" Al allowed himself a small smile. "That is perhaps the most surprising part of all, Chancellor. They do not want to rule us. They do not want tribute or submission. They want allies." 3 weeks later, a Federation diplomatic vessel returned to Earth carrying Chancellor himself and a delegation of senior officials. The negotiations that followed would be remembered for centuries as the moment when everything changed. The meetings took place in Geneva, the same city where Al had first set foot on Earth. But this time, the human delegation included representatives from both surface nations and Atlantis, sitting together as equals for the first time in recorded history. Dr. Laura Mitchell handled much of the negotiation on the human side, her calm intelligence and patient explanations helping to bridge the vast gap between civilizations. Elder Gray attended as an advisor, his presence lending weight to even the most difficult discussions. And Captain Cole provided security for the proceedings, his easy smile hiding a constant alertness that missed nothing. "Here is what we propose," Laura said, sliding a data tablet across the table to the Chancellor. "Full partnership in the Federation, not as a junior member awaiting development, but as an equal participant with full voting rights and access to all resources. In exchange, we offer our technology and our protection." Studied the tablet with all 4 eyes, his expression unreadable. "Protection from what, exactly? We have seen your weapons, Doctor. We know you could destroy our fleet without effort. Why would you protect us rather than simply taking what you want?" Gray spoke for the first time since the meeting began. "Because destruction is easy, Chancellor. Any fool with enough power can tear down what others have built. The true measure of a civilization is not how much damage it can cause, but how much it can create. We have spent 11,000 years learning that lesson." The holographic display activated, showing the approaching shadow once more. The Atlantean elder pointed to the darkness with a steady hand. "We call it the Void," continued. We do not know what it truly is or where it came from. We only know that it has been consuming civilizations for millions of years, perhaps billions. Our sensors have detected the remains of species that fell to its hunger long before your Federation or our Atlantis ever existed. Felt a chill run through his ancient bones. If it has been destroying civilizations for that long, how can we possibly hope to stop it? We are not certain that we can, admitted, but we believe that together we have a better chance than either of us would have alone. Your Federation controls vast resources and commands billions of soldiers. Our technology can amplify those resources in ways you cannot yet imagine. Apart, we would fall as countless others have fallen before us. Together, we might achieve something new. Laura Mitchell leaned forward, her eyes meeting the Chancellor's directly. We are offering you a choice, Chancellor. You can return to your worlds and pretend this conversation never happened. You can spend the next 50 years preparing for a battle you cannot win alone. Or you can accept our hand in partnership and help us build something that has never existed before. A true alliance of equals, standing together against the darkness. The chamber was silent as considered his options. The Federation had ruled this region of space for 10,000 years, never bowing to anyone, never accepting equals. The idea of sharing power with a species they had considered primitive was almost physically painful. But the shadow on the display continued its slow advance, and the Chancellor knew that pride would not protect his people from what was coming. The Federation, he said slowly, each word carrying the weight of an empire, accepts humanity's offer of alliance. The room erupted in applause from both delegations, a sound of relief and hope that echoed off the walls of the conference chamber. Captain Cole raised a cup of coffee and a toast, grinning at the Chancellor with genuine warmth. Welcome to the neighborhood, Chancellor. Now let us show you what else we have been hiding. In the weeks that followed, the alliance began to take shape. Atlantean scientists shared their knowledge of resonance physics with researchers, opening doors to technology that had been sealed for 12,000 years. Federation engineers began adapting Atlantean designs for mass production, building weapons and shields that could actually harm the void. And deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the ancient engines of Atlantis hummed with renewed purpose. For 11,000 years the city had waited in darkness, preparing for a war that might never come. Now that war was finally approaching, and the waiting was over. Elder Gray stood on the observation deck of the Grand Hall of Tides, watching as and human scientists worked side by side on the platforms below. Dr. Amy Foster joined him, her silver hair gleaming in the bioluminescent light. "Do you think we made the right choice?" she asked, "revealing ourselves after so many centuries of hiding?" Smiled softly. "We will find out soon enough. But I believe that some secrets are meant to be shared, and some battles are too large for any civilization to face alone. Our ancestors hid because they were afraid. We are choosing to stand because we have hope." The city stretched out before them, golden and gleaming and full of purpose. And somewhere far above, beyond the crushing weight of the ocean and the blue curve of the sky, the stars waited for humanity to finally take its place among them. The void was coming. The darkness was approaching. But for the first time in countless ages, it would not find its prey alone and helpless. It would find an alliance of worlds, united in purpose and armed with weapons forged from the deepest secrets of the universe. And humanity, the species that had hidden in the shadows for so long, would finally rise to meet its destiny. Not as conquerors, not as destroyers, but as guardians of all life, standing against the darkness that sought to devour everything. The ancient engines of Atlantis pulsed with power, and the city began its long ascent toward the surface. It was time for the sword to be drawn at last.